You are listening to Esoteric Discussions with Valentine St. Aubin on Peterborough FM, www.peterborough.fm.
Hello and welcome to Esoteric Discussions with me, your host, Valentine St. Aubin, a show where we go deep down into the rabbit hole. You can catch me every other Wednesday evening from 9 here on Peterborough FM and online. If you want to learn more about me, please visit my website at valentinesaintaubin.co.uk. So, it's the 8th of August 2012, and how is everybody doing out there? I have to say, it's quite volatile. Everybody is on a very tight knife edge. All you have to do is turn your television on, and you can see that it's quite stressful out there. It's stressful on the outside, and it's stressful on the inside as well. And depending on maybe your experience of what is happening right now, you might be going through quite a bit of confusion and maybe even a bit of fighting going on around you. These are the energies that are around at the moment, and I have bad news for you because they are going to continue to intensify. So if you are finding that you are having a hard time, that there are many fires starting around you, know that you're not alone. Many of us are experiencing these things, and well, I can explain very briefly as to maybe some of the problems that we might be experiencing and the why. Obviously, if you're a listener to the show, every so often I talk about Mercury retrograde. Well, we've been going through the phase of Mercury retrograde. Mercury rules communications and the way we interact with each other as well. It also governs electronical devices and machinery and anything that helps us to communicate with one another. So maybe you might have been having lots of computer issues, maybe emails have been going missing, you've been trying to make communications with others and your emails aren't getting through, all of that type of stuff. I mean, for example, at home, my washing machine has decided to have a leak out of the blue. That's a very common thing with Mercury retrograde. Things like washing machines and dryers and the boilers start acting up, and also cars as well. So we have that going on, but we also have a very, very volatile aspect astrologically, which I have spoken about in the past, and it's continuing to tighten, and it's going to be with us for the next couple of years, and that's the Uranus and Pluto square. And we had the first square on the 24th of June, which by no surprise, and you should not be surprised, was the same day that the LIBOR case issue exploded. And since then, we have had a varied amount of revelations about the dodgy dealings that our bankers have been getting up to. Now, this will continue. And there's going to be a lot of dirt that's going to rise up to the surface in the next few years. So I'm going to warn you now, you're going to feel like you're living in a zoo, basically. All the animals are going to start running around and acting crazy because everybody is acting crazy. There's a lot going on energetically. And also, talking about energetics, we had solar flares kicking off around the beginning of July. We had quite a few intense solar flares as well. You might have had difficulty sleeping. You might have felt quite anxious, maybe a bit stressed. We tend to, depending on how sensitive you are, you will pick up that energy, and it can make you feel that way. Some people will have no clue what I'm talking about because they don't feel energy. So it just depends on how you're wired and how sensitive you are. So that's been going on, and as we are aware, we are coming, NASA keeps pushing the solar maximum forward, and they're now saying that the solar maximum will happen in 2013 instead of 2012. They have already given their rough guide as to what to expect. They are expecting difficulty with the grid system going down because it might get some super solar flares attacking it. I'd be careful with things that NASA say. There are other reasons for maybe what might cause the grids to go down, but these are things that are keeping people on the edge, because we know that there is a lot going on and there are a lot of things coming up, and there's plenty of things afoot on this planet, and we're going to see some very, very intense times in the next couple of years, and there's no way to sugarcoat that, and I don't think we need to try to sugarcoat it. It's time that we grow up and that we look at the world that we're living in, and try to put forward some new plans, because obviously, as we can see, we are living through the collapse of what we've always known, which is not a bad thing, because there's lots of things that could be changed. So it doesn't have to be all negative, but reality is reality, and it's best to know the truth than to hide behind the lies. So tonight I have a great treat in store for you. I have Alex G coming back onto the show. He's been a guest on the show a couple of times now, and we always have great conversations when we get together, and he's going to be in the studio. He's in the studio now, but he's going to be coming on air in just a minute or so, and he's going to be talking about some new events that he's putting on, which you might find interesting, especially if you live locally here in Peterborough. If you don't live locally, I believe he is going to be trying to also create DVDs that people can purchase as well. So it's all good, so nobody has to miss anything. And I'm looking forward to our conversation. But there's one last thing I want to just pick up on before we go for a break. Now, we had the opening ceremony for the Olympics, and I did watch it, and I'm not going to go into my ideas on what I thought about it, not right now. I'll wait for the games to finish, and then we can go there with all of that. But there was an interesting story that hit the headlines with the Olympics, and it was about a UFO that was caught on film and on camera when the fireworks display kicked off towards the end of the ceremony. Now, many of the mainstream newspapers picked up on this UFO. The Daily Mail, I find, have been carrying lots of stories related to UFOs. They're quite vocal in sort of, discussing these kinds of issues. We also had the Mirror. They also picked up on the story, and the Daily Telegraph as well. The Huffington Post, of course. Many online sites picked up on this story. So, it's up to you if you want to believe it, if it's true or if it's not true. It doesn't matter. I'm just bringing it to your attention because I find it very interesting. And basically, from what I understand, no one has come forward to actually identify what it was. So the news, the various news teams that have cameras floating around up in the heavens, they've said it wasn't one of theirs. It wasn't a helicopter. It wasn't military. So no one's coming forward and putting their hands up and saying, yes, it was mine. So I'll leave it in your hands to think and to believe what you want to believe. But if you're interested in the story, just Google it, and it's UFO over the Olympic Stadium in London in 2012. And it was caught on the camera. So they have a YouTube video with something very bright streaking across the sky as the fireworks are going off, but it's also being caught by photography as well, and it's been blown up so people can see the image better, and it is a very, very big UFO. And of course, there's been a lot of talk in the alternative community, in the New Age community, that we're getting close to disclosure. I don't think we'll ever have disclosure openly, but I think those that are out there are ready to get in the mix and let us know that they're there, and do it in very obvious ways. So, well, these are the types of things that we like to talk about here on the show. So I thought I would just bring that to your attention. But we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to be joined by Alex G. But you're back with me, your host, Valentine St. Aubin, and you're listening to Esoteric Discussions, and I'm here every other Wednesday evening from 9 p.m. here on Peterborough FM. At the moment, we are on 87.7 FM, but of course, we're always online at www.peterborough.fm. So tonight, I am joined by my special guest, Alex G., who is the host of the show On the Edge, which airs on Controversial TV. That's Sky Channel 200. At the moment, Controversial TV isn't currently making any new On the Edge episodes, but you can see Alex pretty much every day. he's on there a couple of times a day, doing, showing various interviews he's done in the past. He's done quite a bit of body of work with some very interesting individuals. So if you like the kind of conversation we're going to have tonight, I would suggest that you check him out on the telly, because he's very interesting to watch. So I'm going to open up his mic and bring him on. Hello there, Alex.
Hello there. Oh, what an introduction.
Oh, yes.
Between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. every morning, 7 days a week, you can catch me. So the early birds that rise with the sparrows can catch me then.
Yeah, you get the day started quite early, and quite fun as well, with very insightful information and very deep information as well. Obviously, you did On the Edge for quite a bit of time. Mm-hmm. You've been taking a break from hosting On the Edge. So you're here today to talk about a new project that you have in the works. Let's get going with it. What are you up to now? What have you been up to since I last saw you?
Well, there's three major avenues I've been pursuing. One is actually taking my previous interests, which was cult TV, effectively. I ran the Cult TV Festival for 14 years, and that got me to meet loads and loads of different stars and celebs you'll know from some of the sort of really out there science fiction, action, adventure TV shows. And obviously, I moved away from that in 2007 to look into the more controversial and the more conspiratorial elements of what was going on. And I wanted to find a way of sort of joining those two interests together, and that came about in setting up a presentation called Facts in Screen Fiction, which I premiered the weekend before last at the Glanstanbury Symposium, which has been going 22 years now.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Actually, I was aware that you were giving a talk. I just haven't been able to be down there to be part of it. But how did it go? How was it fun?
It's all very, very positive off the back of it. I'm already getting sort of offers of speaking engagements here, there and everywhere. Down in Sussex is the first one sort of penciled for early in the new year. But basically this is a shout out to conference organisers and event organisers who basically want a little exploration of what we see on screen, either big screen or small screen, and how that actually relates to the world around us. As I say, it's extracting the facts in the fiction there, and joining some dots that we didn't previously have established. So this is what that presentation does, and there's loads and loads of pics of everyone's favourite shows from the 60s and 70s, because I've concentrated on my youth and teenage years, which is when we're the most impressionable. And it was intriguing with the knowledge I have now, going back and revisiting old shows. One that immediately comes to mind, which I'm always spout on about because it's an excellent example, is the Jerry and Sylvia Anderson show Joe 90. Now, for those who don't know it, and it is a fairly obscure show in his catalogue, this features a 9-year-old boy who is put in this great big metallic orange rotating sphere, and he can take on the brain patterns of anyone in the world that they've managed to extract a brain pattern from. So that sounds, well, yes, this is an excuse for a 9-year-old boy to have adventures as an astronaut and a pilot or whatever else. But what we're actually talking about there is what they describe in psychology as creating different personality alters.
Yeah.
ALTAR. And these alters were part of a well-documented program called MK Ultra in the US, where effectively people were brainwashed and literally with a click of the fingers you become somebody else. And that's what we were getting in Joe 90. It was effectively exposing MK Ultra, its monarch programming, as they call it, and showing how the mind of an assassin might work. Because this is the bottom line of it. There is considerable evidence that a lot of the people involved in assassination attempts literally have no recollection afterwards of what they'd done, how they got where they were, and had no memory whatsoever, because it was a different alter within their consciousness which had been sort of switched on just for that moment.
That's what happened with the killer who assassinated John Lennon.
Yes, absolutely.
And he cannot remember. Yeah, and he actually stood and waited for the police to come and get him.
Yeah.
So MK Ultra is a very deep subject, and a lot of money was spent by the United States government and other governments too, working top secretly to create and do research on the brain and try to find ways to make people split, so that they can use them in various and devious ways. A lot of people have come forward as well. They were caught into the sex slave trafficking, and they were used in those ways as well. But it's interesting how the television and how these writers of these shows are so... They know all of these details. I mean, another one, and we've talked about this in the past, is the Dollhouse.
Yes.
With Elijah... what's her name?
Elijah Dushku.
Yes. And that's another show, and that's definitely MK Ultra. And even when you see her, being placed into the bed and with the the helmet thing over her head, and she's being reprogrammed. I mean, it's just there in your face.
And I think the thing is the difference between the era of the 60s and 70s. It was very much that a lot of the creators of these shows were given complete freedom to do what they liked. Lord Lou Grade of ATV, who used to back a lot of these shows that which I focus on, basically you sold the idea to him, and as far as he was concerned, the next thing he wanted to see was the finished product. He didn't want to get involved in any shape or form. And I think that differs to what we have now, because you have so many people in different layers within the pyramid of television production involved. If you actually ask people, where did that idea come from, who placed that particular imagery or that particular wording within the script, a lot of the times nobody knows, because they'll get a word from on high which must be obeyed. Hallelujah, we must do what we're told because we're being given money to do the show, and that's it. Suddenly it's, we don't know why in the Green Lantern movie, when they're passing over information about an alien that they've captured, and it's on a hard drive, and the hard drive has a sticker which has the all-seeing eye pyramid on it, and it's sort of like, well, who was responsible for that? Well, we don't know. Someone thought it was a good idea, but you don't know who. No. So this is it. Who had the idea? Whose decision was it to hide that in plain sight?
And that all-seeing eye gets everywhere. It's in cartoons, it's in video games,
and it's on the dollar bill.
It's on the dollar bill.
And you say this to people, and they go, "Oh, well, it's just a bit of design. It's just a bit of design, you know. I thought it was a good idea,
with a pyramid.
Order out of chaos, new world order. That's the sort of wording you'd want on your dollar bill. Why? Yeah. So that's been one thing I've been doing, as I say. So hopefully any conference organisers anywhere in the UK or around the world, if I can afford the fare, then please get in touch, and I can bring you facts in screen fiction to a venue near you.
Excellent.
So that's one thing that we concentrated on. The other thing was very much related to what you were saying about On the Edge. Currently, we're sort of on hiatus. Screening extended repeats of our 4th season on a Wednesday night. In fact, yes, you're probably just halfway through one on Channel 200 at the moment, but don't turn over. Stick to us. I thought it would be a good idea to get some of the best speakers from On the Edge that I'd got to know, and bring them to the Peterborough area to actually talk live, so people can hear what they've got to say face to face, get the chance to ask questions, and have things explored in a lot more thorough way than we can actually do in an hour's television. So the first one is in Whittlesea, and in fact we've decided on Whittlesea as the venue. Childers Club on Station Road. So those who know Childers will know it's got that excellent downstairs function room. We've got the deep geopolitical researcher, one of the finest in the world, as it says in Nexus magazine, is coming along to do a talk called Bankers, Bailouts and EU Baloney. Now, this ties into what you were saying earlier about people sort of all getting skitty and not knowing which way is up, and all things getting confused and whatever. I can't think of a better example of that than people listening to what's happening in terms of our banks, the people right at the top. I'm not talking about the guys in your local branch.
No. They're still the foot soldiers.
They have no idea what's going on above them, and they will just get orders from on high. I think this is the thing that people appreciate when they work in a large organisation of any description, that you've got no clue whatsoever what it is the guys running the agenda at the top and deciding on the business policy, what their end game is, what is the goal of what they're doing, because it never seems penetrable. They'll wrap it up in strategies and mission statements and visions, and most staff will shrug their shoulders and go, I have no idea what this means. And this is the exact same thing with the banking system. And I would encourage people who work in a bank to come along, as much as I would encourage anyone out there who is just scratching their head in disbelief when they hear the latest piece of news about whatever big scandal has just broken. It seems such a mess and uncoordinated and just separate incidents, but Ian pulls it all together in this presentation so that you can see that the whole thing is premeditated. This is all working towards a plan which is set out in stone and has been sort of rising up over the decades. And this that's a conspiracy theory. The thing is about conspiracy theories, they're always a theory until you've heard the facts. When you've heard the facts, it's no longer a conspiracy theory, it's a fact. And that's what I hope this series of talks called First Wednesdays is going to be about. Guess when they're on? First Wednesday of every month. So it's a 7:30 kick-off on Wednesday the 5th of September, and anyone who wants to come along, it's £5, adults only, and everyone who books in advance via www.ianrcrane.com will also get a free DVD on the night, which will have a little bit more extra info on various subjects and bits and pieces, as a mere taster of what's out there in
I think it's a great opportunity for someone like Ian R. Crane to come to Peterborough. And I mean, I know he does talks, across the country, and he's always busy talking, what have you. But I think it's really important that he comes to a town like Peterborough, because we just don't get this type of information coming on our doorstep.
And the thing is, for people to say, well, I've never heard of Ian R. Crane. Well, hold on. Ian R. Crane is doing a sellout tour of several venues in Australia and New Zealand this autumn. So it's a question that, that the word is spreading about the strength of the material that Ian is putting out there. So even if you have no belief that there is this big grand conspiracy rolling on in the background, it's worth coming along just to satisfy your curiosity and find out what it is that everybody else is seeing in this that is encouraged them to actually start finding different ways to invest their money and look after their future. And this is something that affects everyone.
It's not, and it's not going to just go away.
No.
So we have to become educated and take interest in these topics when they arise, in these issues and problems, because the problem that I have, Alex, is the thing like with the LIBOR situation, is the LIBOR situation and what these bigwig bankers, those at the top, as we've said, the cream at the top, what they have been getting up to is just appalling, because it's showing, and they have always done this is not a new thing, it's just finally this type of information has finally reached the surface and is finally getting out and being exposed. There's nothing new here. They've been up to all sorts for many years, decades, hundreds of years. They've been up to all sorts of things. But what does actually annoy me is that the press, because the press is controlled, a situation like the LIBOR, we should be up in arms. We should be very upset, very annoyed. And the average person doesn't, they've heard about it, but they're not really, powerful yet with the anger.
The thing is, it can look like a very difficult topic. Straight away you're going into acronyms like LIBOR that they've never heard of, because why would you? Why would you in dealing with your local branch? When are you ever going to sort of be discussing the LIBOR rate?
And how's that LIBOR rate going today?
Well, this is the thing. Do we know? I don't know. I don't know where the score is on the door in terms of the percentage rate that banks are charging each other at the moment. But this is the thing. It showed that this was a cartel and that there wasn't separate banks. They were all acting as one bank together under the same roof, following everybody else's instructions.
With the Bank of England.
And it's sort of a good question. Somebody out there, tell me, who are the shareholders of the Bank of England? It has them. But do you know? Have you ever heard it mentioned? I tell you what, nobody can find the information out. If you've got an inside track on it, tell us. We want to know who the shareholders are. Because guess what? Shareholders in a company tend to benefit from the actions of the company. And if we don't know who those people are, then we don't know whether they're doing it purely or altruistically, or what's in it for them when the Bank of England does something specific. Absolutely. What's the kickback they're getting? We don't know, because we don't know who these people are.
Yeah, but it's time for us to start asking these questions, and knowing who these members of the Bank of England are. That has many knock-on effects on many things, historically speaking. And of course, we know that the Bank of England is a private institution and it has its secrets. So they don't want us to know. Because it then ties into those who are holding the wealth and sponging off of the rest of us, and they want to keep their identities basically quiet and covered, so but I think in time, and with the right kinds of researchers like Ian R. Crane and others like him, we will slowly get there with exposing some of these details, and it will be a snowball effect. It's still very early days as far as I'm concerned.
Ian had a phrase. It was something like, "If you are going to call me a conspiracy theorist, then at least have the civility to come and hear what I have to say." Because I think it's fine saying, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist." Yes, what does he actually say? "Oh, I don't know." Right, oh, that's good. So you've gone along with the pack, labelling somebody and something and a concept without any knowledge or backup to have that belief. And I think this is the thing. I found it incredible, as we were saying, that Ian goes all around the country speaking on this thing, these issues, and the wider global perspective as to where all this is heading. And the areas that he's never been asked to are the Cambridgeshire and Fenland areas. It just seems to be this sort of oasis area, which is away from any contact to this material. So it had to be done, and I'm hoping we're going to get some huge support from our listeners here on Peterborough FM, because this is there for you as a resource that you can tap into. And I'll tell you what, the water cooler moments at work the following day are going to be huge, because you're going to be able to go, you'll never believe what I found out last night. And that's the thing. It's a question of creating a community network for this information to flow through, basically.
Well, Alex, we have another guest in the studio with us, don't we?
Oh,
a surprise guest.
Yes. Oh.
So let me introduce him. Well, he's been on the show before, so he's not a stranger. Last time he was on the show, he was playing his guitar, and we were talking about art and music and the Beastie Boys, because we had experienced the loss of MCA from the Beastie Boys. So he's back again, and he loves this kinds of stuff, talking about the banking system and all the different types of things we need to change in the world. So I will allow him to introduce himself. Say hello.
Hello everyone, so my name is Pedro, and I've been here before, yes, so I'm a reoffender.
And this is the perfect show to reoffend on, so, and with the perfect guest as well, so...
And Pedro and I have something to reveal to our frenzied mass of an audience, haven't we? But we're actually looking to take over every other Wednesday from the 29th of August, Peterborough FM at 9 p.m. for Red Alert Radio.
Well,
that's absolutely right. So we'll hope that everyone will tune in and see all we have to say, because it's going to be brand new information. At least for some of you, it's going to be brand new information. And information, let's be honest, is very much like soup. So some people are happy to eat from the same bowl. Some people are happy with porridge.
As long as I get my croutons.
But it's nice to be able to change soup types, and once in a while I get
we shall meddle with their palates in a way that they've never experienced before. In fact, you're going to, in terms of information, you're actually going to review a DVD of the week, aren't you?
That's right. So the idea is to, in order to get information from different bowls, so to speak, we're going to introduce a DVD review of certain, pertaining to certain type of information, and which is going to be really based on facts. So it's not really hearsay or personal opinion. It's going to be really sort of short moments of certain DVDs, some really put together information, revealing exactly what's really behind and certain type of research.
And it was interesting what you were saying there, Valentine, in terms of sort of information coming into the press, and it's sort of like it gets missed. It's there as just a flash in one newspaper one day, and he's never commented on again. So you're sort of going to be our memory hole man as well, aren't you?
Yes, I love that sort of thing. Basically, you were talking about acronyms just earlier, like LIBOR. What does that mean? Is it LIBOR with dots in the middle, or is it just LIBOR, with two R's, or what does it mean? And actually, is this the type of topics that get missed sometimes in a newspaper, or when you normally outside these topics and passing through that little article might be just right in front of you, but if you don't know what that means, you pass it through and you go into something else. So basically, I suppose we're just trying to educate people, into how to overcome this veil, this sort of programming. I mean, we all programmed, since the day we were born, to go into certain sort of social conforms, and and we grow that way, and we programmed, to
the predictive programming,
to be part of society, and that sort of thing. And of course, we're going to perhaps try to, bring things onto the table so people know exactly, I never heard this before, or what, let me try something different and see where this takes me. So we're going to allow our our listeners to begin to unravel.
So, I mean, it'll be all these various sort of snippets put together into this huge collage, and then everyone will see the big picture.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
that's expressive, isn't it?
It
think
is.
so.
It's very expressive.
It's very like expressionism, you know.
Well, it's you know,
You
it's
stand
very,
from afar and you can see the picture better.
Mm-hmm.
it's all very much needed right now, and I think, you know, your point that you made earlier about, you know, some of these terms can be intimidating for the average person. It's a lot to get your head around. All of this information coming at you. I mean, we take it for granted in a way because we've been on such a long journey, and we've been able to assimilate this information in steps. You know, and we've grown with it. Now we're having a big boom, and I will present this question to you both because I'm not wholly convinced about this whole awakening issue, but there is a big boom going on where all of a sudden now it seems as if the world that everybody has known is being eroded away, and they're seeing the full fleshy and fatty bit for what it is, and it was like, oh, what's happening here, and it can be scary.
And there's still people who don't want to face the train coming down the track.
And those people will always be there.
Yeah.
We're not going to touch everybody.
No, absolutely. And I think this is the thing. It's okay for people to say, no, I don't want to know. I'm really perfectly happy with my life as it is, because the thing is, it can be a huge shock when you realise the implications of sticking all this information together and seeing that big picture. For the simple reason, you suddenly realise that almost everything you have ever been told is wrong.
Yeah.
And when you get to that state, it's just like, well, who do I believe? What do I believe? You know, you say go on the internet and look at this information, but there's bits that contradict this, and there's bits that support it, and you've got people saying I'm one of these scientist type of bodies, and I obviously know what I'm talking about. And then you step backwards and go, yes, Mr. Scientist, who's
funding you?
Who's funding your
Yeah.
research?
Yeah.
And what have you been asked to build into
That's
it?
right.
It's widely known in the science community, and I remember conservationist Peter Taylor saying this on the Edge programme, that effectively you have the situation where it was the case that if you wanted to ensure you got your grant, you had to put something in to back up the story of climate change. If you would get climate change into your research somehow, and how it would support the idea that it's man-made and we're seeing things that are totally our fault. Climate change, everyone, happens. It's always happened. It's been there.
It's part of the ecological system of things. So it's it doesn't have to be the end of the world.
And the
it's a
thing
cycle.
is, anyone who's done basic science at school, you didn't have to be good at it, but we all remember it, and it's been pushed out of our head. Carbon dioxide is not a poison, it's plant food.
Yeah.
Okay? Remember? We all remember that. So why is that being pushed off the table to sort of demonise carbon dioxide? Oh, we must stop it. Oh, it's grown by 0.001% in 300 years. That's dreadful. It's been fluctuating and increasing over the centuries all the time. We're told to forget the medieval warm period, but it never happened. Yes, it did, when you were able to grow grapes on the south coast of England, and they had wonderful vineyards and everything like that. And then you know, we have to sort of forget the mini ice age, where we've seen the pictures from the mini ice age, where they were having fairs
from the paintings and
on
things.
the Thames, frozen Thames ice fairs, and it's sort of like, so you're telling us that didn't happen either, and this is the thing. The information there is in plain sight. We've just not had it connected, and that's what I'm hoping Pedro, myself, and your good self as well, we'll be able to join the dots for people and say, have you thought about that, and put that together?
Well, people like to use the factual argument. You know, that's like, show me the facts. So, and that's all researchers can do. You know, is show people the facts. You know, Crane, many other people, Ian Thomas, all of these types of speakers, that's what they do, and they do it very, very well. So, you know, I suppose we feed the right types of information by giving them the headlines, by extrapolating those headlines, and helping to dissect the information that has been brought forward. Because sometimes, and I don't know if I think you'll agree, I mean, sometimes I'm just watching the television and it's just jargon coming out. I mean, there's nothing there. It makes no sense. And it's like, am I listening to a different language here? I mean, for Pedro, yes.
Before the Olympics came along, and it's sort of like 1 minute of news and 29 minutes of sport in every half hour on BBC's breakfast news show. It was the best comedy show on television, because you just have to laugh at the way they were taking a story, and it's like, are you serious? Is that what you really think? And I
know, and I do think that with I know I shouldn't say this, but I do think that with the presenters, do they not know? Do you think they know?
The thing with the presenters, we cannot forget the knowing, of course, a little bit more information, because it's a little bit like you have to see who pays your salary.
Yep.
Now, if they being paid, and this was in the news, just not that long ago, last week or so, about how much BBC certain members of staff, quite a few, I think was maybe 400, being paid by private companies which they've set up to collect pay less tax, and therefore but there's a smaller element of those BBC workers that we all know very well from the news, and some of them from show hosts on Friday nights, that sort of thing. Not going into names, but I could, and they at least on 500,000 salary, up to a few million. Now, BBC being a public service, where is this? So they are. Where they deserve that money? Why? Because they're great lion tamers. The hypnotizers. They making us feel comfortable and go to sleep, and make feel that everything's fine.
And I should say, we're not just singling out the BBC here. It's
absolutely
across
right. Yes.
every network.
I'm just mentioning. I'm tying up with the news, the article that I saw, and anyone can, if they Google it, BBC.
They were revealed.
Tax.
The hierarchy and what they were being paid within.
That's right. So just Google that, and you'll find something like that. But even just going back to the CO2 emissions, let's just for a moment think that it is true. Okay, how arrogant is of ours, of us humans, in spending millions and billions of dollars or pounds or whatever might come next into sending, probes into Mars, into space. Are we thinking? I mean, okay, we just want to know if there was water there. I mean, in an ideal world, I like to. It's nice to investigate, and and that's how some say humanity does move on. But at the same time, when you're moving on into trying to find out different things in different planets, spending billions when you've forebode or your own planet, your own home. It's a little bit like we starting to believe our own hype. Those people that perhaps a little bit like those people that perhaps have the thrill to or the wish to have a second, third, fourth home, but they can't really afford the first one. It's a little bit like that, and I think it's just gone out, it's just completely out of hand.
But the interesting thing about the NASA pictures that are coming back from Mars, and actually illustrated in the Glastonbury Symposium presentation, you've got pictures from 1976 of the Viking probe there with the Martian landscape, and it's all a dark browny deep red.
Yes.
And now the new pictures that are coming out, it's sort of, there's greens in the mix, and there's light browns in the mix, and a few yellows, and it's sort of like, hang on a minute, one of these pictures has been mucked around with. Which one and why? Did they muck around with it in 76, or are they mucking around with it now? And whether it was then or whether it's now, serious questions to be asked as why that would be done.
Of course, there's all, as they say, there's different levels of know-how, of interpreting, or some would say there's different. The lie is always different at every different level, every level, and
that was Richard Hoagland that says that.
There is so there is plenty.
But the thing is, it is a question: can we believe our eyes? I mean, I haven't actually got this corroborated as actually having happened, but it's certainly one of those very quick internet myths that's going around that just before the Olympics 100 metres final with Usain Bolt, and they were doing sort of retrospective on Usain and how marvellous he is and what a wonderful human being.
I saw that, yeah.
And then apparently there was a little sort of blip on the screen, just for a second, even less than a second, so it was hardly noticeable
to the eye,
to the human eye, and it said something along the lines of "Get away now, missile imminent."
Really? I hadn't heard that
It
one.
was something like that. It's not that exact wording, but it's that sort of thing, and it's sort of like, oh yes, really. And there's a screen grab of it. Now it's more than likely somebody being very hilarious with a bit of Photoshop. But the bottom line is...
But we know they do things like that.
Well,
there's been evidence to support that, they're flashing messages at us.
And this is it, you do it in... They did it in a cinema as a trial, and it was effectively go and buy a soda at the interval. And so it flicked up just for a tiny split second. Go and buy a soda at the interval, and soda sales went through the roof in the interval of that movie. And these sort of flashing images to get a message across have been used time and time again.
Yeah, there's a lot of research that's been done into that. Books written about it. I mean, it's there.
But even in sort of day-to-day behavior, it's the failure to deal with our own insecurities, and we deal with this, constantly looking at magazines and that sort of thing. And psychologists that do work for these corporations know the best way to trigger our conscious mind. And for instance, it's not uncommon, and you can actually check this for ourselves, audience. There, how many perhaps those machines where you get sweets and things like that.
Oh right,
close to your lunch break
vending
and that sort
machines.
of things.
Vending machines. Yeah.
Vending machines. How many of them perhaps have at the bottom of the machine, healthy shelf, right? And you just go there, and they attract you with all these nice colors, a nice little, I understand, but that doesn't really replace a nice chili or a nice home-cooked meal at lunchtime, And so is this type of a convenience life that's basically brainwashing us to give into certain practices when they themselves are harming us, not taking control of our own lives.
And you say this to people, and they go, I'm completely in control of my own life. I make my own decisions. And then you find out most of their opinions are derived from the newspaper.
It reminds me of those, that show that's currently, or it's been currently on TV, where someone is trying to slim, get slimmer, and they say, well, I've been dieting, and I don't manage to get a little bit slimmer. What's going on?
I know the show you're talking about. Yes,
it's exactly
and they
the same thing. So you put a CCTV camera going on, and she's like watching whatever, just going about their business, but in between activities she's eating, but she's not conscious.
She's not conscious of it.
She's not conscious. She's eating. So it's the same thing. We do things sometimes without being conscious that we're doing things that do harm us. And I'm not going on a trip that I'm a yoga master and I don't do things, but it's being conscious of what you're doing, and also what you're giving into your money, your body into, and someone else is making a buck out of it.
So let me ask you guys, because we're kind of running out of time now, and maybe just to try to pull everything together and wrap this up, because obviously we've got Alex with his wonderful talks that he's going to start to do for the Peterborough community, and so many people might be listening tonight and thinking, wow, there's just so much I don't know. But where do you think we are with this awakening thing? I mean, how far along are we? Because I'm quite suspicious as to how awake and aware people
if I may
are.
just because you were talking about that earlier, and something came to mind. We had a previous guest on this show some time ago called Thomas Sheridan.
Oh yes,
and he's been on tour with Ian O'Crane with the
absolutely right.
financial
if you
terrorism.
want to know about psychopaths and how to study them and how to know one when you see one, Thomas is your man.
That's
but he
right.
did say that. From his perspective, the Great Awakening was actually the creation of the internet, the access to information. So I do agree with that too. I have other interpretations of the awakening, spiritually, and there's other things around that. But there is definitely a serious interpretation, because the internet just really revolutionized the empowerment that people can have by saying, look, for this week or for these 2 days, I'm going to take control or experiment something different. And you're just saying, Alex, and I'm going to give this conspiracy theories a try, or just going to I'm going to try YouTube, see what that's about, and you'll be pleasantly surprised. You won't watch TV anymore for at least for the first 3 months. You're just going to be hooked on finding more information of things you never come across before.
It becomes a roller coaster because it just revs up, and when you get to that point that suddenly you're at the top and then whoosh, you're down, and the way that is. In terms of the cycle of where we are as a civilization at the moment, we're in that stage of denial now, and it's huge denial. It's not that people don't know much of what we're describing here. They've heard a rumour here or something, a little whisper there, but overall they haven't actually sort of put it all together. And this is what we were saying about people not wanting to know what was coming down the tracks at them. And at some stage, curiosity is just going to sort of rise above all of it, and they're going to go, okay, tell me what you think about this. I've seen this in the news. Tell me how I should be interpreting this. And I'm finding that starting to happen. People are going, okay, clever box, what are you going to tell me about this? What's the real story behind these shootings in America that have just happened? You're telling me they are false flag, i.e. done by people within the institution, if you like, rather than sort of outside it. And if that is the case, what's your evidence for that? And the thing is, you can go and see the evidence, and it is all catalogued. And this gets back to what you were saying about the mainstream media steering clear of what's clearly in front of them. Because the basic bottom line is, if you look at it, none of these stories of the Batman cinema shooting or the temple shooting, none of the descriptions match what the eyewitnesses are coming back with.
Yeah, I've heard about yes, I've heard that. Well, so maybe I should try and answer my own question as well, because this is my take on where I think we are with the awakening. I think I like what you say, it's that avoidance as to what is coming, what is approaching, and that's how I see it. I think people are at that point where they're still not ready to face it, but they will prop their ear and give a listen if they have to, and maybe you might grab someone's attention. But I do not think that people are very aware still. They don't know the particulars. They're not empowered with the knowledge and the information the way they need to be.
I say it to people that the bottom line is you don't need everyone. Statistically, you need 13%.
Oh, and that's,
You need 13% of people to get it. And the other way they look at it, they describe it as the 100 monkey syndrome. And what the 100 monkey syndrome is, effectively, if enough monkeys in a colony learn something and a way of doing something, like how to get a banana out of a tree or open a coconut, suddenly all around the rest of the world, everyone else within that community will catch on and be able to do it. And you think, goodness me, is that all it needs? And that's the thing. People say, well, once I've discovered this, what can I do? What can I do to sort of influence people? Well, all you do is tell them. Tell them what you found. Tell them where you found the information so that they can go and check it out themselves and see that you're not just making it up. And this is the thing. Everybody in this conspiracy community, as it's been described by the mainstream, everyone says, do not take our word for it. Go and find out for yourself. And this differs 100% from the mainstream media news, because they will tell you, this is the story, this is what you should take from it.
Well, very nicely said, Alex. We're going to wrap it up. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. You did a fantastic job. And what's the website for people if they're interested? Yeah, mine is www.alexg.com, ALEXG.com. You'll find out all about bankers, bailouts and EU Baloney and how to get your tickets. We'll also be able to link into Red Alert Radio, so you can find out more about that in the weeks to come, launching on the 29th of
August. Looking forward to that.
It's going to be fun.
Sure
All right,
is.
guys. Well,
Absolutely.
it's been live, but until next time, keep your eyes on the stars.
Pay close attention. Pay close attention.